gotta have that gold. Gold, gold, they'll do anything for gold.
Welcome to Searching for Truth and Treasure in Alabama with Alabama historian, videographer, and speaker Jim Phillips. Jim has spent the last 40 years exploring and finding amazing artifacts on lesser-known sites in the state. He's here with us to discuss the how and where you can legally explore old, privately owned sites and find those amazing treasures from the state's past. Plus, he's going to tell you a story or two about hard-to-believe events he's encountered as he's toured the state. So let's get into it. Here's Jim Phillips. All right, welcome in everybody to another episode of Searching for Truth and Treasure in Alabama with Jim Phillips. We got Jim in studio, and I think we got Angry Jim today again, which is always fun. Jim, how you doing, man?
Not angry. I'm tired. You know, yesterday I went down and I did 2 talks, and the older you get to these long drives to do 2 talks in one day are rough on you. And I was just telling you a minute ago, I'd go to Mobile and I'd do a talk in Mobile, one at Fairhope, and drive back. This is all on the same day. And once I fell asleep on the interstate, just fell asleep into a dream and jumped.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I'm still under my lane doing like 78 miles an hour. And then I got to McDonald's, I get some coffee and staggering around there. And you saw what I got. I'm all wired up on the chest with my heart monitor. Well, it wasn't a heart attack.
Either Jim's been visited by aliens and they've wired him up for some studies, or he's had some heart issues.
Yeah, well, minor. Being an angel is great. It's the angry part that without sleep.
Yeah.
And I got back into some caffeine coffee.
Uh-oh.
And not supposed to do that because I've had some AFib.
Is it bothering you that I'm drinking my caffeine in front of you? Is that bothering you?
No,
All right.
man, I'm drinking my decaf right now.
Okay.
But,
all right.
I started drinking a little more caffeinated coffee, and I added 3 days and nights of bad sleep together. And then about 2 in the morning, I laid down to go to sleep, and it started kicking off. So I went up to the emergency room. We're going to talk about medical care. We might title this one Medical Treasures. I'm going to do a plug for a really great doctor in a minute that's probably saved my life. And there's great doctors out there. So I wound up at the emergency room, and they gave me a room, and they came in, and they wired you up, and you've got AFib, and your heart's going blah, 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 flutter and all that. It's not a heart attack.
Right.
They got to get it beating right. So they IV you, and they inject you, do drips with medicine that will get it beating right. It took me about 2.5 hours, and mine kicked in, and it was normal. And everybody's calm, and they're going to watch it a while. They let you go home. Right, and they'll usually put a heart monitor on you, and you send it in. They want to analyze the regularity of any skipped heartbeats and all. It's
Right.
good medical care.
Sure.
Great medical team. Hospital great, the staff's great, but this is where they got to realize something. Heart's beating normal, and they got these little warning things that go off, and there's nothing wrong with the heart. And I've got this like dent, 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 and then mixed in with blub, blub. And it's like, and all this, and then there's a flashing red light going off in my face, and I'm calling them. Now, my heart just started beating normally. These aren't warning things like you're having a heart attack. It's, can somebody come in here and turn this stuff off?
Sure.
They won't come turn it off.
Nope.
And I'm sitting there by myself, 30 minutes, hour, What do you think that's doing? Knowing me and the stress?
No. Well, anybody, it stresses
I
me
know.
too.
I called him and says, my heart just started beating normal. I've never had a heart attack, but I'm going to have one if you don't get in here and start turning some of this stuff off. What's wrong with people?
I know you would think that. I think they're around it so much that they tune it out.
I mean, you're in there for a heart arrhythmia, and we get that stabilized.
Yep.
There's no heart damage, no heart attack. And there you're just warning sirens and things in my ears and flashing red lights. You can't do that to
I think what we all should do is get a pair of sound blocking headphones that we just keep in our car and know that if we're going to end up in a hospital emergency room, just take those in with you, have some music to play so you can just block all that
it's like when I was in, we called it the CAT scan tube. It was an MRI tube, but they did the MRA, remember? And I told you the guy was playing whoa, low gospel music. And I said, have you got any Tony Bennett? And he did. And then he started saying, Mr. Fitzwilliam, you have your brain operated on, and he wouldn't shut up with that. Kept asking me, and I said, I can explain that in one word. And then you paused for effect. I said, aliens, you remember? and then I heard this. And that freaked him
Look,
out.
when I go to the dentist, I use my earbuds, they say, hey, oh yeah, just listen to your music. And then what do? Ask you a question every 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Are you going to talk to me or am I going to just listen to this?
People talk about being in the hospital now. Mr. Jones, get some rest. And then every 10 minutes they open the door and turn the light on in your face. How you going to do that?
Yeah.
It's I had let my Jeep Cherokee back over me one night about 2 years ago in the parking lot, taking my daughter some medicine over. She was sick in her apartment.
Wait, it backed over you?
Well, let me tell you what happened. Now, the parking place is right there. It's dark in the parking lot. It's been raining. I'm about to pull in. Cell phone goes off. My daughter could be impatient. Like, where are you? So I jumped out through the door open and being impatient, not really angry. So I said, oh, let me answer it. And I started answering it, and I pushed the floor shift in park. It's in reverse.
Almost in park.
And it starts going back. Now, I skip on my right leg twice, trying to get back in it, right? Knocks me down. My elbow hits the floorboard. I'm on my right side. It runs over my legs.
Oh, my gosh.
And it's dragging me. I'm not making this. Well, it runs over my left leg.
Yeah.
And I knew it was going to. I was saying, oh, no, it's going to run over my leg. And boom, right over it. And my leg went numb. And my right elbow's on the floorboard. And I'm pushing on the brake because it's dragging me, the Jeep and me, into those Mercedes parked in a row. All those BMWs back there. Right. And it's going to go bam, bam, bam,
That's
bam.
typical Jim. Forget the fact that he's just gotten his leg run over.
They're going to run out there in a parking lot. See, this old man whose Jeep is, old Jeep, by the way, it's just hit your new BMW Mercedes. They don't care I'm laying there injured, run over. They're going to start kicking me. You damaged my car. So I'm trying to stop the car. I swear, I'm really doing this. I've never screamed help or cried so loud in my life. I'm screaming, just let her rip, Jim. I'm going, help, please help me, please help me, please. And a couple were walking their dog, God bless them. He came running up and said, please turn the ignition off. Now, I would stop it from rolling back, and then I couldn't do it anymore. It's rolled back. I'm about to give out, but they saved me. And I go to the hospital, no broken leg.
Wow.
I had a hematoma, which is a big blood clot. It looked like about 4 inches of 8 or 9 inches of red jello under my skin. Now, here's the
tire track.
Well, I went to the doctor because I knew it had opened up. I knew it was a hematoma. It needs to be pulled out of there. The doctor comes in, I promise this is true, at a clinic, like an all-night clinic, and he's eating like a candy bar, with his fingers, and he's staring at me. And then he comes in, and there's an open it's been pressure on the skin, so it opens up. No glove, doesn't wash his hands, and he sticks that finger in the wound in my leg. I promise you. And I stared, and I said, doctor, shouldn't you be wearing a glove or wash your hands? And he says to me, and I quote, what difference does it make? It's infected anyway. Because there's 10,000 kinds of damn bacteria. That's what difference it makes. I don't want another one introduced into it, you fool.
You don't want him introducing the Hershey bacteria.
Right, Hershey bacteria. So he didn't like that because he's got two pretty nurses. He's a young male doctor. And there's some great, I'm starting to sound chauvinistic in these. I talk about chasing bikinis on Dolphin Island.
That was a long time ago.
I said, I know some archaeologists aren't arrogant. They're all great guys and all that. It's the guys. I'm sorry. Yeah. The best doctors I've known, probably, a lot of them have been women.
Sure.
Some of the best professors and most professionals. So let me get that clear. So let me tell you, he does a great job. He gets he says, what do you know? It's not infected after all.
Well, now it is.
Stuck your Hershey finger up in it, right? And that's not infected. So they drained it, and it was so wild, they wanted to video it. So you and I in the video business, they come in with the cameras, action, roll it, and he stabs me in two places. What you got to do?
Yeah.
He's got like a butcher knife, and he goes stab, and they squeeze it out into a tub, and they video that. Well, then he sticks a cloth in it. Now, follow me on this. There's two holes.
Right.
They're about 2 inches apart. He runs a cotton swab, which is good medicine. And I know this doctor knows what he's doing, but kind of lay off the Hershey bar with the open wound.
Put some gloves on or something.
Yeah, and I could tell he knew what he was doing, but wear the glove. And he sticks this cotton swab through, it's like a string, a shoestring, and he comes up through those two holes and ties it in a knot. So if you pull on it, it's looped through your skin.
Yeah.
So anyway, you got to have that taken out. So I go to another clinic, and I tell the doctor's office there at the clinic, I said, I need to have this removed. And this doctor's what's his Methuselah, whatever, is 180 years old.
Yeah, I got you.
He's working in there apparently 5 hours a week for the fun of it. And he's enjoying all the young nurses. And I can tell his mind's, in my opinion, his mind's not really focused on the job. In my opinion, it's not focused on the job.
I might start running this
But it's really
disclaimer.
nice that he comes in. I like the guy because he's got this great persona. He comes in, how are you? And he's teasing, and I love that. So he looks at it, and I said, I'd like to get this thing taken out instead of waiting 2 more days.
Yeah.
And he looks at it, he goes, he's trying to figure out what it is. I says, it's the swab, they call it, a drain swab.
Yeah.
So that wound will drain, not get infected. The first doctor did a great job on that. So anyway, get this now. There's the will anyway, trying to avoid those. Now he puts his rubber gloves on. God bless you,
Good for
doctor.
him, good
and
for
he
him.
sticks his finger under that cotton, like string
Drain
that's
thing,
tied in a knot, and he starts pulling on it. People, it's looped under my
Yeah,
skin.
it's not coming out.
It's not going to come
needs
out.
to
All you're
cut
going to do is rip my skin open. He's pulling harder. And I go, wait. I says, you got to cut the thing. And he goes, I'm not making this up. He goes, what? I said, can't you see? You can't pull it out. It's got to be cut. He goes, oh. And then so he calls the secretary in, who goes into her desk, and he comes in with the old dirty scissors that aren't even. I'm not making this up. Out the secretary's desk, and they cut the swab, and he pulls it out. Now we're going to be okay. Of course, I'm saying put some ointment on it, and antibiotic, and give me some things. So I lived through all that, and I survived. I'm limping a lot, but I got through that. Now
We got to. I'm never mind. There's nothing I can say.
I'm not going to do number 3 on medicine.
Oh, gosh.
So I'm just saying, in my opinion,
Yeah.
the doctor should have washed his hands.
Well, that's
not
a good
stuck his
opinion there.
finger
Yeah.
after eating a Hershey bar. or put
Hey, and we love Hershey bar. I'm sure they're very clean.
Yeah. I admired her for liking Hershey's.
Sure.
And from there on, I thought everything went fine. Once I told the 180-year-old doctor that you have to cut it, doctor, it won't come out. See, it's the laws of physics.
So the question is, did you get your daughter her medicine? Or did she come out and see it laying on the ground and go, Dad, give me the medicine?
Oh, yeah, she was something. I limped into her apartment. They wanted to call an ambulance, and she was mad at me for causing it. You got to know my daughter's like,
Yeah.
why are you causing such ruckus? What's wrong with you? I just let the Jeep run over me bringing you some medicine. You know what she says? She says, you're blaming me for this. That's what she said. Are you blaming me? She always wants to be the victim. Okay, I hope I'm not busting the microphone on this.
No, you're good.
Doctors can save your lives, and both these doctors wound up in the long run giving me good medical care.
Sure.
And the nurses that worked with them were outstanding. I think the first time the Hershey doctor, the nurse seemed kind of talking to me apologetically. I kind of thought she maybe saw some things she thought were out of place.
Yeah.
Now, doctors can save your lives. I told my dermatologist, I'm going to do a plug for you. And he doesn't need to send me any money. He's not paying for this. He
can if he wants.
Well, no, 5 or 6 years ago, I went into him and I told him, Dr. Walters, I said, I'm exploring and stuff, and he's bought artifacts for me. I said, I'd like you to it's not tax deductible, I told him.
Right.
So he made out a check to this account. I had $100.
Yeah.
I said, to help me with gas, and I told him it's not tax deductible. I don't want him donating anything. I want to plug good medical care.
Right.
It's Brookside, Brookwood Dermatology, not Brookside, Brookwood Dermatology in Vestavia. It's Dr. Walters. Now, he's removed more skin cancers. They are thorough. They do Mohs technique, M-O-H-S, is how you pronounce it. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah. I don't know what it is, but
Well, when you go to, you've got a skin cancer, they'll biopsy it. They remove some tissue in a lot of places, and he does it too. You got to send it off to the lab. In 3, 4, 5 days, the lab calls back, and they check the not the parameters, they check the tissue and see if there's cancer, and they'll say it's benign or there is cancer, in which case they got to do surgery.
Right.
But when you go back to your dermatologist, you want them to have Mohs technique where they cut it. They cut the minimum they think they need to cut to get the cancer out, and they check the parameters of it under a microscope at the doctor's office.
Okay.
Some doctors will send that off. You don't find out whether they got all the cancer for another week or 4 days. Then you got to go back have them cut into it again. What you want is a doctor that does Mohs technique, and Dr. Walters does this there. So they cut it, and you sit there and wait before they stitch it, and they go in and they look at the removed tissue, and they say, yeah, well, okay, we got all of it, or we need to cut some more, and they do that till they're sure they got all of it with the parameters. Now, let me tell you, there we go. Let me tell you. Trust me. Let me tell you something. Like I'm going to.
I'm serious.
Let me tell you something, boy.
I'm not kidding.
Dr. Walters is out of town on a prolonged vacation, I think, and I've got this bump, and I've had melanoma from climbing Mount Shasta. By the way, Mount Shasta is supposed to have aliens in the mountain. Now I'll tell you a story about that sometime.
I think you've told us that story.
I know. I went black on.
Part of it.
I hope
Part
so.
of it. Part of it.
But we didn't encounter aliens. So I go to this doctor that I've never been to because I want this bump on my nose, and I'm a speaker, and it's itching. And I said, well, it could be a subcutaneous thing, or there's another name for it where something's benign. So I go to the doctor, and he looks at it, and he says, oh, that's nothing. It's just a this, which is not a cancer. And I says, well, I'd like to have it biopsy because I've had about 13 skin cancers, squamous, melanoma, and a lot of basal cells. He said, well, it's just nothing. You just let it go. I says, well, it's on my face. It's going to get bigger right there. I'd like it biopsied. He's fighting me on that. He said, I'm not going to biopsy that. He says, if you like to make you happy, I'll freeze it, which can kill precancer cells. I said, well, do that. So he freezes it. Dr. Walters comes back into town, so I boogie over there, and he comes in with either his nurse or an assistant doctor. It's probably a nurse with him. A great lady, and Dr. Walters comes in, and they both say, we don't like to look at that. Wish you hadn't frozen it so we could see it without it being frozen. But they say, we don't like to look at that. We want a biopsy. They send it off, comes back, it's squamous cell cancer, which can kill you.
Yeah, that's not a good one.
Squamous, like, it's not as deadly as melanoma, but it can get into your lymph system. So anyway, there's the well in it. They go ahead and they do surgery, and get this, you're sitting there waiting. They get to the microscope. We got to go in a second time and cut a little more out, right?
Right.
So then they come back. We got to go in another time.
Wow.
So there's 3 cuts, and they finally get it all. But see, that had spread down on the side of my nose into my cheek.
Yeah, and if you hadn't gone back to them, man.
The point is, it was spreading.
Yeah.
This is a cancer that can kill you. And what did the other doctor say? It's nothing.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do a biopsy. Just ignore it.
Yeah.
It's nothing. And I go to Dr. Walters, and you can in effect say he and his staff saved my life. And
so the moral of this story is always get a second opinion,
right,
especially if it's dealing with cancer or precancer. Or, I mean,
that little Band-Aid right there. I went in there with a little bump that came up, and I said, that's going to be benign. Better be careful. I went in, and his nurse came in and looked at it, and she says, I think we'll just go ahead. It looks like nothing. Let's go ahead and do a biopsy and get it checked to be sure. Isn't that great?
Yeah.
We're just to be sure. And I got the phone call. It was benign, but let's look at it in 3 months, and maybe we'll freeze it.
Right.
That's great doctrine.
Yeah.
And I can say, I know for a fact, the odds are just great he saved my life.
Yeah.
At least saved me from
way more damage.
facial deformity and all this and that, because he got right on it. Another doctor was saying, oh, ignore it. But Dr. Walters, that's at Brookwood Dermatology in Vestavia, great work. And they have really kept me alive. And when my daughter as a teenager started getting her acne, boy, he cleared her up.
Yeah.
He did this, he did that. No abrasive stuff did he do. They do Botox and everything there, by the way, for beauty. But he got on her skin and worked with a prescription and something. Golly, her skin, she looks like Hollywood. And it's because of Brookwood Dermatology and Dr. Walters and his staff. So that's called a treasure.
Yeah.
You got a doctor that's that thorough.
Yeah.
It's a treasure.
Yeah.
And he's got a great personality.
And especially in today's climate, because their doctors and doctors' offices are so pressed for volume, get you in, get you out, because that's the way they got. That's the only way they can make money
and
now,
they'll tell you that's a valid excuse, but maybe you need to find a doctor that doesn't feel rushed.
That's right.
Do you remember the lines from the movie Goldfinger?
A little bit.
You ask people what their favorite line was in a Bond movie, and being an old-timer like me, I don't relate to Roger Moore and all that. It's going to be Sean Connery.
Yeah.
There's a line where in Goldfinger, James Bond is spread eagled on the remember that gold slab? And the laser is going shooting up the slab. It's going to get up to his crotch and split him in two.
Yeah.
And Goldfinger's mocking James Bond. And Goldfinger turns to walk away. And there's this line, and I said it to Dr. Walters, that they are doing a cauterizing. Because I've been taking aspirin, I didn't stop, so I got a capillary that's doing a lot of bleeding, and they're trying to stop it from bleeding. They cauterize a little electrical wire, and they're kind of burning it. It doesn't hurt. They're just kind of burning the tip of that capillary. So it's like a little, it's like a laser effect, right? And I said they're doing it, and I said to Dr. Walters, Bond says this to Goldfinger. And Goldfinger answers them back, this is how it goes. I says to Dr. Walters, do you expect me to talk? And he says, no, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die. That's Bond talking to Goldfinger. It's a line. And I thought, you got to love a doctor
that knows that.
To like that.
That's awesome.
We can do a scene from Goldfinger.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
But getting on to medical artifacts and things.
Yeah, so all this is leading up to medical. He's got a green bottle right here.
Says,
I'll put a picture on the website.
It says Coca Mariani, and you could drink this and not feel anything. And Mark Twain was this is history for you. It's also treasure. This is a big green bottle. I did not dig this one. I dug it. It's a good $75 to $150 bottle. It's got a lot of history to it. Mark Twain would drink this on the Mississippi River, and when ex-president Ulysses Grant is dying from throat cancer, he smoked 20 cigars a day.
Oh, my God.
20 a day. 20 a day. So what's he going to die from? Throat cancer, right?
Yeah.
And that's what he's dying from. I believe it's in the 1880s, early 1880s. I can't give you the exact date. There he is up on his farm. And they're fighting bankruptcy. He and Julia, his wife. Did a talk on presidents yesterday, their wives. We'll get into a little of that, try to put some artifacts in with it. So he's up there dying in pain, trying to write his autobiography. Julia's got no money. They're going to lose the farm. Mark Twain sends him a case of Coca Mariani. Coca does not mean cocoa. It means cocaine.
Yeah.
This is cocaine and wine, folks. You know Mark Twain loves this. He's a happy man on the river. Ulysses Grant, Yulie, as Julia calls him, gargles with it.
Hey.
That's powerful when you kill pain gargling. Then he drinks it. But it gets him through, and he writes his autobiography. And then Mark Twain gives Julia Grant a lot of money to help her launch his autobiography, and it staves them off from bankruptcy.
Wow.
He's left us. By the way, talking about bankruptcy, when you've struggled like I have financially in video, which doesn't make you a rich person and stuff, but
you know what I tell everybody about video? I make killer money two times a year.
I had I'm digressing now, keep me on line.
Yeah.
I met an old friend from the 8th grade, and of course, he's retired, and he had this big job, and we were going to have breakfast. He's talking about his refurbishing his summer home and doing this and that. And I kind of got the gist talking to me that old Jim's not rich, and he didn't want to meet me again. I said, we'll do something to get back together. He just lost the interest in me. I didn't fit his wealthy retirement status or something.
Anyway, back to your green bottle.
Talking about Harry Truman. We're off Ulysses Grant. Harry Truman was president. Do you know which president was? What president had the most terms as president?
Harry Truman.
I
don't want to. I have
Franklin
no idea.
Delano Roosevelt. He's president elected 1933, 37, 41, and 45. 4 times.
Right.
They don't allow that anymore.
Right.
After 45, he dies. So vice president is Harry Truman.
Yep.
Harry S. Truman. You know what the S stands for?
No.
Nothing. They decided
they
said we got to give him initial, or he's just Harry Truman. Let's just call him Harry S. Truman. I'm serious about that. Yeah, it's Harry S. It stands for nothing. So Harry S. Truman comes. I got to quit doing that miner's voice. They's just dollars, folks. They's dollars. It's getting on my nerves because I'm listening to my videos. He's president 45 to 49, reelected 49 to 53. We got a U.S. president 8 years. So he leaves the presidency. They is so broke. I love to use bad English. They is so broke, he and his wife Bess, they can't afford apartment rent. They move in with her parents. Folks, 8 years the president of the United States, Congress is embarrassed. So they vote a pension. They're embarrassed about that.
Interesting.
Thomas Jefferson, who's our third president. He's president 1801 to 1805, 1805 to 1809. He dies. He's so broke, his dying words are, I bequeath to my God, my soul to my God, my daughter, and my country. I'm glad he bequeathed his soul to his daughter because he ain't got a penny. I'm serious. He couldn't bequeath her a dime. I'm preparing my daughter for that. Just think of me as President Thomas Jefferson, who didn't leave his dollar a dime. Not that he didn't want to, but
But you know, that was back what I call the good old days when politicians were politicians because they actually had a past.
right. That's true. That's true.
There's no such thing as a president retiring broke now. They're going to by far be richer than they were when they went in.
Don't get me off on that.
Yeah.
You want to build an audience, I start calling politics. I'm making calls.
Not going to do that.
They'll lynch me out there or something. I won't get out of this parking lot. We'd have to do radio for that, which I get to go the people that call in, right? We're not going to get off on that. And I'm going to tell you, there's crazies on both sides of the political spectrum.
For sure.
I mean, really, there's crazies on both sides.
Yep.
And there's good people on both sides,
Yep.
but there's just too much money-oriented.
Yep.
Now, getting back to Coca Mariani. So that saved the president's life, and we got through Truman and the dying words of George Washington. You know what those were? Who brewed his own brew. He made home brew and beer and all that. And he went out riding to examine his plantation and got sick.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, he died from that. And you know what his dying words were?
Mm-hmm.
And you explained them? He said to me, I'll give y'all some history here. He says I'll call him Robert, his male secretary, says, Robert says, yes, General, sir, in so many words. He says, see that I have a proper burial and make sure that my body is not placed in the vault until at least 3 days after I have died. He's not sure Robert's listening to him, so he says emphatically, says, do you understand? With emphasis, and Robert says, yes, General, sir. Then he says, 'tis well and dies. What's he talking about?
I don't know.
Being buried alive.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
So that happened back then, I guess.
Sure. Have you seen the Edgar Allan Poe's Premature Burial? That story is about the gene in that family, the Barron's family is. They have this medical condition, and they go into coma, and they think they're dead, and they bury them alive. And how they find that out, it's not a pleasant story. They go into the crypts, and they open up caskets and stuff, and they're scratching and stuff.
They're trying to get out.
You're right, trying to get out. So what do? You build a rope. You have an above ground vault, you got a rope comes down the casket. When you wake up, you pull it. But that's what he was afraid of. By the way, we were talking about amazing things about the Civil War and that how the Verena Howell Davis, the widow of the president of the Confederacy, became best friends with the widow of the general that the Confederacy surrendered to.
Mm-hmm.
Julia Grant had slaves. I mean, you see, General Grant.
Yeah.
Ulysses Grant becomes general. I mean, there's so much stuff. It's muddy. Not everything is in so much black and white.
Yeah.
I want to show an artifact here to the medical treasures. I found this metal detector, and
Jim is now reaching into his pocket.
and you said the other day I'm dumping out my bag on the table with hundreds of thousands of dollars. There wasn't $400 in that bag I was dumping out.
Jim has now pulled out 3 silver coins. I'm sure they're solid silver. And another coin. Oh, there's some quarters and another one and a thing. Probably what, $10,000 worth of stuff right there?
Nothing. There's nothing. And I'm leaning back with this microphone, so I just dropped what I was going to show you, but they can't see it anyway, so who cares about it? But it looks like a little metal P, about 2 inches tall. It's a little rusty piece.
Like the letter P?
Like a letter P.
Okay.
And you turn it around, and you could tell something was attached to it. It was a blade. That's called a flame. And it looks like a P. It's like a switchblade knife.
Mm-hmm.
There's a blade on the back, and it would flip out, the blade, and you would cut yourself with it. And they used that in the Civil War. It's a bleeder. And just like that's why George Washington died. They said, oh, well, he's sick. We got to get the disease out, the germ. Let's bleed him.
Yeah.
And they took a quart of blood. We got to bleed him some more. They just bled him to death.
Oh, my gosh.
They really did. That's why he died. He probably would have covered from that cold if they hadn't bled him to death. But
so where'd you get the P thing from? Did you
I found that down at an old hotel site that was a Confederate training ground, and they mustered Confederate troops in there. And I don't want to mention names. But
so were they all the letter P, or was it like somebody?
All the flames looked like the same. Now, I know the Confederates used them. I think the Union soldiers used them. And
cool.
but I didn't know what it was because the blade was missing. I've seen in one place there's a museum in some town in Alabama. It's got a lot of Confederate artifacts. The guy found metal detecting. There's a lot of flames in the case, and they got the blades with them. I want to tell the story of this. You see the size of that. Nobody can see it. That's a replica of a $20 gold eagle.
This is a coin, guys.
Double eagle, they call it,
Yep.
$20. This is a replica, one of the first ones made in California. It's got 1849 for the California Gold Rush, and you can't own them anymore. What few there are in museums, but look how big that is.
That's huge.
This is bigger than a silver dollar. Now, you had, I'll call him, I think he's Lieutenant Dixon, and he's fighting in a land battle in Tennessee, and his girlfriend, who obviously the family has money, gives him a love token. This was a legend. She gives him a $20 gold coin, and she has worn the back smooth and written a love message about her devoted love, her dedication, devotion, and her love for him. Right? That's a love token. Now, boy, that's a valuable love token.
Yeah.
You think of what $20 was worth back then.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So it's a $20 gold coin, and so he wears this in the battle. The legend is, and he gets shot because where do you wear a love token over your heart? And he gets shot, and that there's supposed to be a dent in the coin. Now let's move ahead to the Confederates creating the first metal submarine in history, the CSS Hunley. They built this 5-man manned sailors, 5 men man it. CSS Hunley metal submarine. They're going to test it down at Mobile Bay, so it moves away from the dock, and they do its trial. Submerging, it goes down. It's got like a scope, like a periscope, and it just sinks to the bottom. Poor guys.
No.
Yeah, they got to bring it up and fish the 5 bodies out. So they take it up near Charleston or somewhere. It's one of the bays up around the Carolinas and Virginia, controlled by the South during the Civil War. Excuse me. They're going to test it again, so they put 5 more guys in it. And you know what's going to happen. And it moves out from the pier, and it does a sample dive, and it goes to the bottom.
Floats like a rock.
All right, so we're 0 for 2, but guess what? It's going to go into battle now. The Housatonic or Housatania, whatever, the Union ship, big giant wooden ships, sails and all that, is anchored nearby. So the Confederates put a 5-man crew into the CSS Hunley at night to attack the Housatonic, we'll call it. And they're going a long pole with explosive on it. They call that a torpedo. There's no engine on it. You got to sneak up to the
And actually stick it there.
and have that 20-foot pole or whatever and pull a rope and it goes off.
Oh, wow.
Who is the captain of this 5-man crew? It's now, we'll call him Captain Dixon, who was Lieutenant Dixon. So they set off the charge, and I think it kills one Yankee sailor, and it damages the Housatonic, doesn't sink it. Well, guess what gets injured in the explosion? The CSS Hunley, right?
Sure.
So it kind of drifts off further out a little bit into the ocean, a mile or 2 or 3 or whatever it was. They never see the crew or the Hunley again. I've got to learn to be more specific with this. I got a historian friend. He says, you're fascinating. There's some things I wish you'd be more specific. I can agree with him on that. But it was about 15 years ago. They actually found, doing research looking for it, the Hunley in the silt, of the shallow ocean just off the shore. They brought it to the surface. Now remember the legend. There's the 5 skeletons of the Confederate sailors in there, inside their uniforms. And there in the hip pocket of Captain Dixon is the gold coin with the bullet dent in it.
Whoa.
Yeah, and I showed this yesterday. It was on the Smithsonian Channel, the History Channel. It's in a museum now. Legend becomes fact.
Yeah.
You have legends and you say, well, that can't be true, but it turns out they're fact. That's why a lot of these gold treasure stories, there's so much fact when you go into it. There's the plantation site out of Tuscaloosa, and it's in the treasure magazines. I've hunted it. That's where the mound is, the dirt that I want you to go with me. I think there's going to be antebellum gold coins in it. Gold's been found in there 3 times. Their treasure story is what? Well, that the old plantation owner, he buried $100,000 of gold coins at the beginning of the Civil War. And he died during the Civil War. And he did not. But his son comes home, Papa, Oh, he's out in the cemetery. Where's the gold? Nobody knows. And the legend is it's here, it's there, here, it's there. Actually, gold has been found there 3 times.
Wow.
The old man died in 1867. They found gold in 3 places. One was in a tree and a knothole in a leather bag. They dug up gold. The legend is on steroids. It's not even as simple as they claim. They found gold in there 3 times documented. And old Jim's going to find it too. And you won't be there. You'll be playing golf, right?
No, I'll go play
You'll
with
be
you.
playing golf. Let's see. I sound like I got Alzheimer's. Yeah, we're running much longer than I even thought we were. I was
good.
talking about Cherie North the other day.
Yeah.
How I got her name wrong. Says, oh, she died at 73 and I'm 75. Makes me feel old. 5 minutes later, I go, Cherie North, she died at 73. I said, damn, he's got Alzheimer's. I'm just tired, folks. But I want to see if there's something else I want to work on here. I mentioned the bourbon barrel of compromise. We're talking about bourbon, and I said that that they served that in Washington at it was at the Willard Hotel was the right hotel. I said Wilshire Hotel, and I knew it was the Willard Hotel. But what happened there is in 1835, they brought Old Crow whiskey. First created to Washington, and the congressmen, they ought to do that now, sat down and just got high on Old Crow whiskey.
Yeah.
And they started passing.
Probably get a lot done.
And it's called the Bourbon Barrel of Compromise. They claim they're doing that now. I don't believe it
I
from
don't
what I'm
either.
seeing.
No.
But they did that at the Willard Hotel. The Willard is still there.
Oh,
It
cool.
wasn't the Willard. It's still there, and they still serve Old Crow whiskey there. By the way, for you bourbon friends, I got some bad news for you. Old Crow is not the same Old Crow as it used to be.
Uh-huh.
Well, they make it with the same sour mash as they do a couple of other bourbons. This is paper currency that I was queued onto by Regions Bank. They called me and said there's a guy that flips houses is down here, and he's gone into an old house he bought, and he's found 1857
Whoa.
mint condition paper money from New Orleans. This is Canal Bank of New Orleans. This is considered the most beautiful $5 note in the history of
That's
paper
gorgeous.
money. Look at the back of it. It's got 5 matings.
Yeah.
This is a Gothic 5. They're seated around a 5. It's
That's so
got
cool.
It's got Washington's picture on it.
Yeah, and I'll put this on the website, Jim.
Yeah, do that. And there's a one from Shreveport. Interesting story. We'll wind this up. A couple of things I want to talk about. Interesting story is Canal Bank balled up the old plantations during the Reconstruction days. The plantation owners couldn't afford them. If they were still alive, they were broke. And Canal Bank would run up and buy them up. But this money was found. I bought it for $40 a note from the guy. He said, I hope you get rich.
Yeah.
And I thought I was going to sell them for $1,000 each. Uncirculated, unsigned by the treasurer.
Gorgeous.
Right. I called this paper money expert. He says the bad news about that is they'd pulled a Geraldo. Remember when he went to Al Capone's vault and we watched live on television, 30, 40 years ago? They found this iron safe under an old building that Capone controlled during the mob days of the 30s in Chicago. We're going to break into it
Yep.
live on television and see if
remember.
Capone's gold is in there. And they opened it up, broke it, welded it open or soldered it open. There's nothing in it.
Yep.
It's empty, a piece of paper or something. They broke into this old safe below a building. They knew it had been sealed for 100 years or something, and there were stacks of this money, uncirculated, but hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of notes. So even uncirculated, it's worth what I paid for it, $40 each.
Because there's so many of them.
There's so many of them. I talked about rarity.
Yeah.
But there's where your paper currency can be worth a lot of money.
Wow.
Gorgeous. I do see them sell on eBay for this note for $75 to $100.
Right.
Considered. I did have a UFO experience. Not really, but let me tell you what. I went up to watch my sunset. This is fascinating. And I'm sitting there drinking my decaf coffee, and I look over Highway 280. I'm elevated above it. And there, sitting motionless, is like a black square, like a black kite, sitting motionless, about 500 feet up in the air, just sitting there. It doesn't move left or right, and it's sitting there for 2 minutes motionless. And I grab, not this time, I'm getting a picture of it, baby. I get the cell phone out and I raise it to take a picture. It says camera malfunction.
Oh,
so you know it's going to be a UFO.
gotta be a UFO.
Got to be, because the camera won't document it, right? And I program, camera won't function 3 times. It's still sitting there, motionless. What is this thing? I don't see a string. It's some kind of like black square. What is it? Finally, it starts to move. And it turns around. You know what it is? A giant buzzard.
Oh, no.
And the buzzard is sitting there motionless, riding
Just
a
riding
jet
the waves.
stream.
Wow.
There's a stream of air running up the side of that mountain. And he has found he could just sit there. You didn't see a head or nothing.
That's wild. I've seen them do that, but that's
Motionless, but you're
Wow.
going to see a little motion. Finally, it starts to move to my right, and it kind of moves, and you see the two wings.
That's cool.
See, now, I didn't think it was a UFO. I thought it was a kite.
Yeah, because
But
it
I
was
couldn't
sitting
see
so
a
still.
streak. Yeah, so I wanted to get
That's
a picture
cool.
of it.
All right, you wanted me to remind
Yeah,
you
I'm going to
about
get
your-
into
your
that.
Jeep
Let's do some
vibration.
donation stuff here. You go to my website, JimPhillipsAlabama.com. You can click podcast in the upper right and see more podcasts
Yep.
than you do on YouTube. And you can scan down that first page of my website and it says donate. Now, how do you do that? I mean,
They just click donate.
yeah, but how do you send money just to my PayPal account?
And if they click donate, they can put in their PayPal information right
Yeah,
there.
you need
and-
your PayPal information,
Sure.
okay?
So you could just email Jim your PayPal information, and he'll be glad to take that money right out of your
I'd rather you do it. I'm not a hanky-panky.
I'm just kidding. I'm
Yeah,
not.
yeah, no. Well, I mean, yeah, you're going to send it to me, and I mean,
Hey, and look,
$5.
wait, Jim, remember, we were looking on YouTube. We have earned $3 so
Yeah.
far on our
Well,
YouTube
let me
videos.
tell you something.
$3, ladies and
I
gentlemen.
told you, and I always say we got the little girl wearing very little and dancing and get $900,000 and stuff. Golly, the garbage is on there. I went down to do my talks. You've got to go see the Thomasville Library. It is in the museum, a new museum, gorgeous. I spoke there at 5
Thomasville,
o'clock.
Alabama, right?
Thomasville, Alabama, went to Highway 43. I spoke at Demopolis Library at 1:30 on Presidents. Spoke about lost treasures at the Thomasville. Go check out their library in Thomasville. Unbelievable. Old brick. It's gorgeous inside. Library museum combination. You will not believe it. I was going to see Sister Martha in Utah. I called her, said, Sister, I'm going to be rushed.
This is Utah, Alabama, by the
Utah,
way.
Alabama. But I'm bringing tons of clothes to her. I said, I'm just going to make a special trip with you, sister, to bring clothes. She hands them out to the needy. They come to her.
Yeah.
I got backpacks, stuffed teddy bears and stuff. I want these little children that are scared to go to sleep at night to be able to cuddle a friend, a teddy bear
Right.
or stuffed giraffe. I really want that so that life's less threatening for them. So I'll get into that. And these are some of the things I do.
Yeah.
So,
So go to his website, hit donate.
and it ain't tax deductible.
No, it ain't tax
But
deductible.
as I'm
Give him
traveling-
$5, $10.
Right.
Anything helps.
Doing
'cause-
research, doing history education, history fun at libraries, retirement communities, historical societies. It's costing me a lot of money. I need help doing this. It makes very little money.
Yeah.
But I want to donate, and that takes time and effort and gas in doing that. Oh, I got to do an update. I did hunt the antebellum mansion out of Montgomery.
Yeah.
I said I didn't go there because I didn't have, quote, money for the damn gas, unquote. Remember that?
I
We
do
got a
remember
dam
that.
in there, which I'm trying to clean up.
You did a few talks and found the money.
I did another talk in Montgomery. I met the guy there. He's so
cool.
kind.
Yeah.
And he let me metal detect. I was going to keep one thing.
Sure.
And I gave them historical bottles as a gift. Guess what we found?
What?
I found a half of a Mountain Dew can at 7 inches. I found 3 or 4 nails at 6 or 7 inches.
Nice.
We did find an old buckle, but it was not ornate, probably from around 1905, 1910. I gave them that. We didn't find a thing but trash, and very little trash. That yard is clean.
Yeah. Yeah.
But as you went to the back, the woods come into play and weeds. You got to go back in the winter for that.
Right. Right.
But we stayed there about an hour and 20 minutes. Enough that I should have found some things.
Yeah,
And I was going to plug in a metal detector, but I'm not getting any participation for them, so I'm going to quit doing that. I mean, enough is enough, right?
I agree.
So, no, kill it.
No, I'll keep talking.
Got
Keep
one
talking.
thing. I've talked about my Jeep being caught after seeing the giant UFO in Birmingham, and I've got other witnesses. One family fled Alabama. My Jeep got hit by an energy field for a third of a mile, just locked in energy, and there was a tone played, and it was lost. I called a musician, write it down, it got lost, and some other things happened. But now I had my iPhone with me now. Are we going to assume if this message came from beyond that Jim was too stupid to turn the iPhone on and record the tone in his iPhone by talking into it?
Mm-hmm.
Is Jim that stupid, or is Jim maybe all these antennas out there in the desert trying to get a signal from beyond? Does maybe Jim have this recorded somewhere, a tone? And where's it from? And if he does, who's he letting look at it and analyze it, trying to figure out what the meaning is? I'm just saying.
Okay.
I'm just saying something to
Been holding out on us there.
Just saying. I'm gonna hold out on a lot of things around here.
All right, guys. That is another exciting episode of Searching for Truth and Treasure in Alabama.
Was I angry?
No, you were angry a little bit, but you got to be happy. Once you got off the medical
The
side,
doctors they gave me great care and great care. I just question something. Dr. Walters is a saint at Brookwood Dermatology, and he's right on 100% all of the time, 101%. Great care.
I hear you. All right, guys. Well, be sure to check out JimPhillipsAlabama.com. Donate. You can see pictures of all the stuff he was talking about. Follow our podcast, subscribe, and we will see you on the next episode. Have a good one.
Gold, they just gotta have that gold, they'll do.
Thanks for listening to another episode. If you have questions for Jim Phillips or would like more information on his speaking availability, visit his website at JimPhillipsAlabama.com.